Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The series begins with a very beautiful girl named Kamala, whose dream is to become a superhero admired by many. We see her room filled with pictures and dolls of Marvel superheroes, and she even writes her own stories combining famous Marvel characters, which she shares on her YouTube channel. Unfortunately, no one watches these videos or cares about her content. We learn that Kamala's favorite superhero is Captain Marvel, whom she dreams of becoming like because she is beautiful, humble, and one of the strongest characters in the Marvel universe. Kamala's mother calls her and asks her to get ready for her driving test. Kamala quickly prepares and greets her father and brother, Amir, before leaving. Her father is very upset with her because he feels she is wasting her life on fantasy stories and not learning anything useful. At the driving lesson, the instructor sits beside her and asks her to start the car. Instead of starting the engine, Kamala turns on the cassette player, making the instructor feel that this is not a promising start. Suddenly, Kamala gathers her courage, starts the car, and begins driving, but in reverse, crashing into a parked car behind them. She panics and tells the instructor that no one saw what happened and suggests they leave, but the instructor yells at her, saying the car she hit is his. He then calls her family to resolve the issue. Her father apologizes profusely for her mistake, but the instructor demands compensation to fix his car. Later, Kamala rides home with her family, and her father scolds her, saying her failure in the test is because she is always daydreaming in her fantasy world, which prevents her from focusing on her life. Kamala arrives at school and tries to make friends with the students, but they ignore her and treat her with prejudice. Her friend Bruno, who secretly loves her but is afraid to confess his feelings, approaches her. They chat for a while, and Bruno jokes about losing a bet with his friends because she failed her driving test. Kamala responds by saying her bigger problem now is that she won't be able to attend the Avengers-themed costume party at school because her parents have grounded her for crashing the instructor's car. Later, their third friend Fatima joins them, and she also wants to attend the party. Their conversation is interrupted by the school principal, Mr. Wilson, calling Kamala to his office. In the office, the principal tries to talk to her in a friendly manner, pointing out that in the past 2 weeks, she has caused several problems, including destroying a lab and getting injured during basketball practice, all because she is distracted and unable to focus on anything but her fantasy stories and drawings. He advises her to pursue these activities during school breaks so she can separate her studies from her hobbies. However, Kamala is not paying attention to him, lost in her imaginary world. The principal realizes there is no hope for her and ends the meeting. After school, Kamala meets Bruno at a superhero costume shop, where he suggests she politely ask her parents for permission to attend the party. Kamala laughs, saying no one will believe her sincerity because she always tries this approach. She ends up buying a Captain Marvel costume for the party and returns home, thinking about how she can modify the costume to win the contest. By chance, she finds a box sent by her grandmother Sana from Pakistan, containing items from her grandmother's wedding. Kamala opens it and discovers a strange copper bracelet, which fascinates her, and she decides to wear it to the party. Her mother sees the bracelet, quickly takes it away, and dismisses it as old junk. She then asks Amir to store the box in the house's storage room. Later, Kamala goes shopping with her mother for dresses to wear to Amir's upcoming wedding. Kamala struggles to find anything suitable. Meanwhile, Bruno visits Kamala's house and shows her father an advanced device he invented, equipped with a surveillance camera and voice commands, allowing control over various household functions and answering questions. Kamala and her mother return home, and Bruno quietly reminds Kamala to talk to her parents about the party. Kamala follows through, politely asking for their permission. However, her parents firmly refuse, as they have raised her not to go out late at night, especially to parties with alcohol and dancing, which contradict their values as a Muslim family. Her father expresses trust in Kamala, but not in the people around her. Kamala tries to persuade her brother Amir to convince their parents, but he is confused and unaware of the situation. Unfortunately, this approach also fails. Feeling frustrated, Kamala retreats to her room. Amir later visits her, promising to try his best to convince their parents about the party. The next day, Kamala practices wearing her costume for the party. Her mother walks in, and Kamala quickly hides the costume. Her mother tells her she spoke to Amir about the party and has agreed to let her attend, but with conditions. Kamala is overjoyed until she hears the conditions. She must wear a Hulk costume, which is very loose, and her father will accompany her to the party dressed in the same costume to match. Shocked, Kamala refuses, saying she would rather not attend than face such humiliation. Her father becomes very upset and tells her she will not go to the party under any circumstances, confining her to her room. That night, Kamala sits on the roof with Bruno, sharing everything that happened with her parents. He reassures her that he has made a backup plan in case her family refuses to let her attend the party. He gives her specially made glowing gloves he crafted in his lab, explaining that they will make her outfit stand out at the party, especially since she loves superheroes and will embrace the theme with passion. Kamala is thrilled and pretends to be a superhero with magical powers. The next day, she prepares to execute the backup plan. She pretends to get injured during basketball practice, so she can tell her family she's unwell and needs to rest in her room for the remainder of the day. She informs Bruno about the adjustment to their plan, and he agrees. The plan involves Kamala pretending to sleep in her room by placing pillows and dolls under her blanket to make it look like she's there. Meanwhile, a robotic assistant will respond in her place during her absence. She then sneaks out of her house through the window to attend the party. Before leaving, Kamala sneaks into the storage room to retrieve her grandmother's picture to incorporate into her costume. When the party begins, Kamala gets ready in her room, taking her grandmother's bracelet with her. Bruno waits for her outside the house so they can head to the party together. Once ready, Kamala imagines herself as a superhero and attempts to leap gracefully out of the window like a real hero, but fails and takes a hard fall. Determined, she carries on and rides her bike quickly to catch the party bus, managing to board at the last moment. Upon arriving at the party, she goes to the bathroom to change into her costume and includes the items she took from the storage room. Kamala hears that the costume contest has started, and when she steps out, she realizes the competition is fierce, with everyone dressed as unique and impressive superheroes. Excited about the contest, Kamala suddenly notices her bracelet glowing with a blue light surrounding her body, as if some hidden power is controlling her. She loses her balance and falls, breaking through the ground and momentarily seeing an alternate dimension. Moments later, she returns to reality, standing on her feet again. She snaps out of her trance, realizing it's her turn in the contest. Kamala steps onto the stage and showcases her costume in front of everyone. Suddenly, the bracelet on her wrist lights up and projects blue objects in front of the crowd, who assume it's part of the show. However, glowing daggers shoot out from the bracelet, hitting random spots, and she loses control. Accidentally, Kamala knocks over a large statue from the party decor, which causes a chain reaction, destroying parts of the venue. She notices her friend Zoe recording the chaos until a hammer-shaped decor piece falls from the ceiling. Kamala uses her powers to create an extended hand-like structure, saving Zoe from falling debris. At that moment, the police arrive, prompting Bruno to quickly escort Kamala out of the party. He helps her sneak back into her house, but she's soaking wet and can't use the front door. Bruno assists her in climbing back through the window, but the height is too great. Kamala uses the bracelet to create a floating staircase, allowing her to reach her room. As she sneaks inside, she's shocked to find her mother waiting for her, having discovered her deception. Her mother is upset, accusing Kamala of lying to her family and being influenced by her fantasies. She warns Kamala to resolve this behavior or face consequences. However, Kamala is unfazed by her mother's words, focusing instead on the realization that her dream of becoming a superhero might actually be coming true. The scene shifts to Agent Jenny and her colleague Mark, who review the video footage from the party. They initially think it's part of the show but find something odd about the events. They can't identify the girl with the powers due to her costume. They suspect it might be linked to an old legend about a Muslim superhero who disappeared years ago, but they remain uncertain and decide to investigate further. The next day at school, Kamala expects to be treated differently now that she's a superhero who saved Zoe. However, no one seems to care or even remember her. She meets Bruno and excitedly tells him she wants to test her new powers, but her enthusiasm fades when she notices people treating her with prejudice. Kamala overhears students talking about Zoe, who has become popular after posting the party video online. Kamala is shocked and feels it's unfair. In class, she sees students gathered around Zoe, listening to her exaggerated story about being saved by a handsome, mysterious superhero who was hiding at the party and protects the city. Kamala becomes frustrated, wanting to reveal the truth, but remembers the police are investigating the incident and decides to stay silent. Zoe announces she's hosting a party at her house to attract the superhero, inviting the entire school. Kamala doesn't want to attend, but when a boy named Kamran says he'll be there, she immediately changes her mind. The next day, Kamala trains to test her powers but struggles to control them. Bruno brings a device to detect energy, revealing that the powers don't come from the bracelet but awaken latent abilities within her. Kamala is intrigued but confused by Bruno's explanation. She continues practicing in hopes of mastering her powers. When the party arrives, Kamala attends with Bruno, but she spends the entire time watching Kamran, uninterested in the party itself. Gaining courage, Kamala approaches Kamran after he exits the pool, dripping wet in the middle of winter. And strangely enough, he is also very impressed by her, and it turns out he loves the stories she writes. At the same time, the police raid the place, and even though the party gets ruined and the police chase after them, Kamala and Cameron continue talking and laughing together. This makes Bruno feel jealous, and he tries to interrupt their conversation in any way possible. He tells Cameron that they need to take Kamala home immediately because she's grounded by her parents for several reasons, including her driving test. Cameron seizes the opportunity and offers to teach Kamala how to drive himself so she can get her license and also so her parents will stop bothering her. Naturally, Kamala is thrilled and readily agrees. She returns home, dances around, and celebrates the fact that Cameron got to know her. The next day, Kamala is sitting in school wearing her bracelet, thinking about meeting Cameron. Her excitement causes the bracelet to activate due to the adrenaline, making her body glow. She quickly rushes to the bathroom to calm herself down and remembers Bruno's words that the bracelet reflects a person's energy. She manages to regain control and returns to normal. When she leaves school, she finds Cameron waiting for her in his car, ready to teach her how to drive. After a while, it becomes clear that Kamala has become skilled at driving, learning it with ease, especially with Cameron encouraging her to do what she loves. That evening, Kamala's family invites her brother's fiancée, Tisha, for dinner, as she is now considered part of the family. During dinner, Kamala's father shares the story of their family history, which began in India with a woman named Aisha. During the time of a great war between India and Britain, the country was devastated. Aisha married a man whose identity remains unknown and lived with him in a place far from the war. They had a daughter named Sana, who is Kamala's grandmother. Unfortunately, the war reached their location, and Aisha decided to flee to Pakistan with her daughter, Sana. Sana was separated from her mother during their escape, but some people found her and took her with them on a train to Pakistan. However, Aisha disappeared, and no one knows what happened to her to this day. Kamala's father shares this story with Tyesha because she has the right to know the truth. During this conversation, Kamala feels something strange. She looks at a picture and feels as though the same thing is happening to her. She senses herself being transported to another dimension. This time, Kamala sees a mysterious woman approaching her from afar, and the sight causes Kamala to faint. When she wakes up, her family is around her, and everything seems normal again. Kamala later concludes that what happened must be connected to the story her father told during dinner. She secretly calls her grandmother, Sana, to ask her a question without her parents knowing. She asks about the bracelet and who it belongs to. To her surprise, Sana tells her that the bracelet does not belong to her but to her mother, Aisha, who disappeared at the train station. Kamala is shocked and feels that there is a serious mystery surrounding Aisha, her great-grandmother. The next day, the police arrest Zoe because of the party she held at school. Zoe is interrogated by detectives Mark and Jenny, who ask her about what happened at the Avengers party and who Mrs. Marvel is, the person who appeared out of nowhere. They ask why Ms. Marvel tried to destroy the party and harm everyone there. Zoe is surprised and tells them that's not what happened at all. On the contrary, Ms. Marvel saved her when a hammer fell on her. However, the detectives are not convinced and let Zoe go. Later, Kamala attends a family gathering where many of her relatives are present. Kamala uses the opportunity to indirectly ask about her great-grandmother Aisha, who fled to Pakistan. She is shocked by the negative things people say about Aisha, including claims that she abandoned her daughter, Sana, and that she was a witch who fled her country because people tried to get rid of her. Kamala becomes upset by what she hears, especially since everyone seems to have a completely different story about Aisha. Meanwhile, a boy sitting on a windowsill tries to take a selfie with his phone, but something strange happens, causing him to fall. He grabs onto the window curtain at the last moment and starts screaming for help. People gather below. Seeing that the curtain won't hold his weight for long, Kamala sees what's happening and rushes to save him, now that she is a superhero. She puts on her costume and climbs the building, but she is still far from the boy. She begins using her powers to create steps to help her reach him. Unfortunately, the curtain tears completely, but Kamala manages to create a step under his feet to prevent him from falling. However, the boy loses his balance and falls anyway. Kamala quickly builds more steps to cushion his fall, successfully bringing him safely to the ground. Suddenly, Kamala sees the same woman who appeared to her earlier, trying to pull Kamala into the other dimension. Kamala snaps out of her trance and realizes the police have arrived to arrest her. It turns out the police had anticipated Ms. Marvel might be hiding among the partygoers and sent a large force to the area. Kamala tries to escape, and Cameron arrives in his car to help her. He drives away quickly, managing to get far from the police. Suddenly, Kamala sees the same woman sitting in the back seat, speaking to her. The woman tells Kamala that she went through so much trouble to reach her. Cameron reveals that the woman is his mother, Najma, shocking Kamala. Cameron takes them to his house to explain everything. In 1942, during the British occupation of India, Aisha was searching inside an ancient temple that had been bombed. She was with a group of jinn disguised as humans. Their goal was to find a magical bracelet, the same one Kamala now possesses. Aisha served as the link between the world of the jinn and the human world because she herself was a jinn born in the human world. Unlike Najma and her companions, who had traveled to this dimension, the bracelet had two versions, but despite extensive searching, they could not find. The second version says Fariha, who is one of the jinn in the second version, was certainly taken by the British Army when they looted the treasures of the place. We find out that Najma is one of the jinn and the leader of the group, and she tells them the second version doesn't matter. It's enough to return them to their world. While they are talking, the British Army attacks the temple, having learned that there are people inside. They begin to flee from the place quickly, and at the same time, Aisha whispers to Sawira, feeling her strange power. Najma tells her she must escape and that she will meet her at a specific location to execute their plan. The plan is to return the jinn to their original world because a rift occurred in their world, transporting them to the human world. Now, Bashri must open the portal and help them return to their world, with Aisha's help, of course. We return to the present, and Najma says they have survived until now because they are jinn. Even Kamran is also a jinn. After Aisha's death, there was no longer any link except Kamala, since she is now connected to Sawira. Najma tells her they can't live much longer in this world, as their power weakens day by day. Kamala is surprised and asks if she only wants the bracelet, but Najma says no. She wants Kamala's help to open the portal to the other world between the jinn and humans. Kamala is terrified by what she hears, feeling that the matter is truly dangerous. She decides to think about it with her friend Bruno. The next day, Kamala goes to Bruno and tells him everything that happened, revealing that she learned the secret of the bracelet's power, which is because she is half jinn and half human. The bracelet activates the power within her, and without it, she can't use her abilities. Her mission now is to return Kamran and his family to their original world, but she still doesn't know if this will endanger her. Bruno tells her there must be something wrong happening, especially with Kamran's sudden appearance in her life and his revealing such a big secret after so much time. These things should make her suspicious. Kamala says she came to him for help because he's her closest friend and can study the matter well. He tells her the police won't stop until they find out who Ms. Mary Marvel is. We then move to Detective Jenny, who enters a mosque with a group of central security. They behave rudely, even entering the mosque with their shoes on. This greatly upsets Kamala's father, the mosque's imam, especially when he learns they are searching for Ms. Marvel in a place of worship. Jenny requests to search the mosque, but the imam asks her for a search warrant. She is unable to respond and is asked to leave immediately, only to return with proper authorization. He also advises her to remove their shoes next time before entering the mosque. Later, Fatima visits Kamala's house to inform her of what happened at the mosque. At the same time, Kamala considers revealing to her friend that she is Ms. Marvel, the person the police are searching for, but hesitates after hearing Fatima say the police are monitoring them, suspecting the superhuman is Muslim and causing trouble with the help of other Muslims. Kamala feels deeply upset by this and blames herself for everything happening. She changes the subject and invites Fatima to her brother Amir's wedding, which is set to take place in a few days. As the wedding preparations begin, Kamala learns that Bruno, unfortunately, won't attend, as he couldn't leave work. However, he left her a box containing a superhero mask, indicating his acceptance of her true identity, even after discovering she is half jinn. We then shift to Bruno at work, reading a book about jinn and spirits. Kamala's father walks in and sees what he's reading, realizing the book is written in Pakistani, which is why Bruno can't understand it. Kamala's father helps him read it, revealing that jinn were originally created with extraordinary powers, but they misused them for evil and fought each other. As punishment, a miracle occurred that transported the jinn to the human world, where their powers significantly weaken. Afterward, Kamala's father returns the book to Bruno and leaves. That night, Bruno goes to Kamala and tells her everything he discovered, concluding that since the jinn were imprisoned in this world, there must be danger if she tries to open the portal. Kamala says she can handle it since she's a superhero, but Bruno gets frustrated with her, telling her he doesn't mind helping her, but insists she think carefully before acting. Kamala agrees with him. The next day, Kamala sends a message to Kamran, telling him she still needs time to decide what to do. Coincidentally, Najma sees the message and assumes Kamala is avoiding them. She tells Kamran they must find a solution, or she will take care of Kamala herself. The wedding day arrives, and Kamala's friends and family gather for the joyful celebration filled with dancing and festivities. Kamran arrives at the wedding, warning Kamala to leave quickly with her family before his family arrives and kills everyone there. Before he can finish, Najma and her group arrive. Kamala quickly sounds the alarm, urging everyone to evacuate the wedding. Najma confronts her son, telling him to step aside. Kamala sees Najma's companions attacking and killing people, so she hides in the kitchen. She is surrounded and engages in a fierce battle. The police arrive at the scene, and Kamala tries to escape, but one of Najma's men strikes her with a powerful blow that nearly kills her. However, the bracelet creates a protective shield around her, highlighting how Najma's group is weak in the human world, unlike Kamala, who was born there. Suddenly, Bruno enters and tries to defend her, but he is struck down and falls to the ground. Kamala is devastated, fighting them off one by one. Kamran arrives, attempting to fight his family, urging Kamala and Bruno to escape quickly. As they leave, Kamala finds Kamran lying on the ground, having fallen from a great height. At the same time, Kamala is surrounded by Najma's group from all sides. Kamala asks Najma, "Why are you doing this to me?" Najma responds, "This is the fate of every traitor." Najma moves closer to Kamala until she grabs the bracelet from her hand. At that moment, a time portal opens, and a train emerges from it, speeding toward them. Luckily, the police arrive just in time, shooting at Najma's men and arresting them. Kamala seizes the opportunity to escape quickly with Bruno. She uses her magical powers to shut the door behind them so no one can follow. Coincidentally, her friend Fatima sees what Kamala has done and realizes she is the reason behind everything that happened to them. Fatima feels deeply hurt that her friend lied to her. Bruno tells Fatima, "We need to leave this place quickly. I'll explain everything later." Kamala returns home very late, and her family confronts her for being secretive and lying to them. They also blame her for ruining her brother's wedding. Upset, Kamala goes to her room. At that moment, her grandmother Sana calls her and insists she come to Pakistan immediately with her mother. Kamala tells her grandmother she can't come right now because of the problems at home. Her grandmother interrupts and says, "I know you saw the train because I saw it too when I was young." She adds, "Come to Pakistan and you'll understand everything." The next day, Kamala and her mother travel to Pakistan, arriving at dawn. Kamala is amazed by the atmosphere of the new city. After a while, her cousins and grandmother Sana come to pick them up and take them home. Sana warmly welcomes them and leaves the house entirely for them to rest. The next day, Kamala wakes up and explores her grandmother's house. She discovers a room filled with artwork and pictures of the war with India. Sana enters the room and tells Kamala the story behind one of the paintings. She shows her a picture of her grandmother Aisha, the original owner of the bracelet. Kamala feels it's the right time to discuss the bracelet. Sana explains that Kamala, being Aisha's descendant, is also part of the jinn lineage. It seems the entire family shares this heritage, which is why Kamala's mother fled Pakistan to live a normal life, far from all this. Sana tells Kamala that to harness the powers of the jinn within her, she must wear the bracelet. Kamala is surprised by Sana's calm demeanor despite the dangerous situation. Sana reveals she sent Kamala the bracelet because it holds many secrets that Kamala must uncover. She explains that the bracelet inspired her to travel to Pakistan alone as a young girl, fleeing on the train after being separated from her parents. The same train appeared to Kamala during her battle with Najma. Sana explains that whoever wears the bracelet is guided to something significant, which is why she urged Kamala to come. Kamala decides to visit the train's location, hoping to find answers. The next day, Kamala reaches the train site, wearing the mask Bruno gave her and acting as a superhero. She searches for clues but is suddenly confronted by a masked individual who fights her. Kamala uses her powers to battle the masked figure and tries to build a staircase to escape. The masked person gets injured on the stairs and falls to the ground. He asks her, "Who are you? And how did you get Aisha's bracelet?" Kamala explains that Aisha is her grandmother and that she is searching for answers. The masked man takes her to a secret hideout, telling her she will find everything she seeks there. He leads her to a restaurant in the city and presses a hidden button, opening a secret door that leads to a space with Islamic decor and many historical books. The man introduces himself as Kareem, a member of the Red Dagger group. He tells Kamala that only Aisha's descendants can access this place. Another person named Waleed appears, welcoming Kamala and revealing he knows about her. He explains that the Red Dagger group protects people from the dangers of the jinn. Waleed says Najma's group is not ordinary jinn from myths or religions, but part of a group called the Clandestines. He shows Kamala a device displaying a miniature model of alternate worlds. He explains that the veil of light separates their world from others. If the Clandestines obtain the bracelet, they will destroy the veil, allowing the jinn from their world to invade ours, leading to humanity's destruction. Waleed tells Kamala her mission is to protect the bracelet because it is the only key between the two worlds. He emphasizes that the bracelet is not just a tool to use at will, but a critical safeguard. He explains that being part of the Red Dagger group gives them the right to protect Kamala and the bracelet before it falls into the wrong hands. Meanwhile, Najma's group manages to escape from prison. Najma confronts her son Kamran for betraying the family to help Kamala. The next day, Kamala trains with Walid, who teaches her how to control her powers. Before she leaves, he gives her a gift, a scarf that once belonged to her grandmother Aisha. While they are talking, Najma and her men attack the location. Walid fights them to give Kareem and Kamala time to escape. After defeating Najma's men, Walid flees with Kamala and Kareem through the city. One of Najma's men chases them in a large truck, causing destruction along the way. Kamala uses her powers to evade the truck, creating a bridge that causes it to flip over. However, their vehicle is completely destroyed. Kamala and Kareem escape in one direction while Walid distracts the attackers from another. Najma eventually catches up to Walid, and they fight. When Walid sees someone about to attack Kamala and Kareem, he throws his daggers at them, but Najma takes advantage of the moment and fatally stabs Walid. Kamala and Kareem find themselves surrounded by Najma's group. Najma attempts to finish Kamala, but her strike accidentally hits the bracelet. This unleashes a massive energy force that throws everyone back. As a result, Kamala is transported through time to the moment when Aisha was fleeing to the train. And then we go on to learn the true story of Aisha's life. Who was the only girl Najma met during the war? She went to hide on a farm to rest for a while, and that's when Hassan, the farm owner, saw her and tried to talk to her. But Aisha was very hostile and couldn't trust anyone. Of course, Hassan understood this and offered her to stay in his hut because it had food and a safe place to rest. At night, Aisha heard the sound of British soldiers in the area, so she quickly went to hide in Hassan's hut. Hassan welcomed her and offered her food and drink. Eventually, Aisha trusted him and told him her story. After some time, Hassan and Aisha got married and lived together peacefully on his farm. Years passed, and Aisha gave birth to a daughter named Sana. As Sana grew older and turned 3, the British occupation reached the village where Aisha lived. This, of course, affected her husband as a farmer because the British wanted to evict him from his land. They cut off trade with him, so no one would buy from or sell to him. Despite all this, Hassan refused to leave his land because he had grown up and lived there his whole life. One day, Aisha noticed someone wandering around her house. She went outside without Hassan and found out it was Najma. Najma started asking her about the bracelet she had and their plan to open the portal. Aisha was shocked to see Najma alive, as she had disappeared for years and was presumed dead. Aisha tried to avoid her and claimed the bracelet was hidden in a safe place because she was afraid the British army would find and take it. Najma sensed that Aisha was lying and gave her until sunset to bring the bracelet. Aisha returned home and told Hassan they needed to flee to Pakistan as soon as possible due to war-related issues. It was clear that Aisha was hiding something from Hassan, so he calmly asked her what was really going on. She confessed the truth about the bracelet and everything else, explaining that she was running away to protect her daughter. In the end, she gave the bracelet to her daughter to protect her, in case anything happened. At the same time, Najma arrived at their location and cast a spell that separated them from each other. She then confronted Aisha, accusing her of betrayal and forgetting her duty to help her people from the jinn. Aisha tried to defend herself, but Najma stabbed her with an enchanted dagger, killing her instantly. Tragically, Sana was separated from her father, Hassan, and couldn't reach him. During this time, Aisha was dying and pulled out a picture of herself, her daughter, and her husband. She uttered the phrase, "What you seek is seeking you," which was written on the magical bracelet. At that moment, the phrase lit up on the bracelet Sana had, creating a time rift over 100 years later. This allowed Kamala to come and transport Sana before Najma could reach her. It turned out that the bracelet story had been planned for many years. Kamala managed to reach her grandmother, Aisha, and learned that she needed to transport Sana and get her to her train. Aisha urged Kamala to act quickly and advised her to live her life to protect the bracelet and eventually pass it on to someone trustworthy, just as Sana later sent the bracelet to her granddaughter, Kamala. Aisha also gave Kamala the picture to prove to her family that she wasn't lying when she returned to the real world. Kamala hurried and found Sana, creating light stars for her to follow until she reached her father, Hassan. The plan succeeded, and Sana boarded the train with her father, fleeing to Pakistan. Suddenly, Kamala returned to reality, only to find that the events had opened the veil of light between the human and jinn worlds. Najma attempted to enter the portal to return to her world but was incinerated instantly. It turned out that only a pure-hearted jinn who had never harmed anyone in the current world could pass through the portal. Realizing that everything she had worked for was falling apart, Najma decided to enter the portal herself to end her life. Before dying, she transferred all her powers to her son, Kamran. Finally, the portal closed after Najma's death. Due to the events, the villagers gathered at the site, with Kamala being the only one present. She confessed that she was the superhero the police were looking for and explained that her powers were inherited from her grandmother, Aisha. She showed them the picture she had as proof that she wasn't lying. Her mother was shocked, but also proud of her daughter and all she had done. Afterward, Kamala said goodbye to Kareem as she prepared to return to America. Kareem gave her his red scarf as a keepsake. Meanwhile, Cameron arrived at Bruno's house. Knowing that Bruno was smart and had helped Kamala solve riddles, Cameron told Bruno that he had gained new powers and couldn't control them. Despite not being fond of Cameron, Bruno agreed to help him. While they were talking, the police monitored them using surveillance drones. Cameron destroyed the drone with a light beam from his hand, confirming to the police that he was the person they were looking for. The police sent several vehicles to surround the area and arrest Cameron and his friends. Cameron and Bruno quickly fled the scene and headed for the subway. However, the police caught up with them, prompting Cameron to use his powers to create crystal-like structures to block the police's attack. They managed to escape at the last moment. The next day, Kamala returned home to America and revealed her superhero abilities to her family. They were thrilled and proud of her. Her mother even gave her a superhero costume so she could move around the city and help people without revealing her true identity. Kamala then set off across the city, moving at incredible speed thanks to her powers. Meanwhile, Cameron and Bruno arrived at the mosque and asked Fatima to hide them, as the police were chasing them. Fatima told them the mosque was already under heavy police surveillance and suggested they hide somewhere unexpected. At the same time, the police arrived at the mosque and searched the premises but left when they found nothing. It turned out that Kamala's father had hidden them behind the bookcase until the police left. He then directed them to take a specific route where police vehicles wouldn't be present. Kamala arrived at that moment and everyone was amazed by her new look, especially since she could now control her powers much better than before, unlike Cameron, the one who is still a beginner and doesn't know how to control his power to the extent that he releases a lot of energy from his body, causing chaos in the place. So, Kamala takes him in and they go to hide in the school. At that point, she calls Kareem to figure out how to deal with what's happening. He tells her to try to help him escape at night towards the port, so he can flee the country because staying in America has become very dangerous for him now. As a result, the police could arrest him at any moment. Kamala agrees and goes to inform them of the plan, but she's surprised to see Zoe joining their group at the school to help them, and Amir's with them too. However, unfortunately, the police arrive at the place where they are hiding. Kamala devises a plan to distract the police, and when the police storm the place, they find a small bomb in front of them. They quickly flee before it explodes, only to discover later that the bomb was a toy that plays music. Each member of Kamala's team starts distracting the forces as much as they can. Zoe pulls out her phone, starts a live stream, and says she's at the school, with a gang disguised as police officers trying to kidnap her. At the same time, Kamala and Cameron escape to reach the port. They find the police surrounding them from all sides, so they quickly hide before anyone sees them. At that moment, they both notice that their hands are glowing with a strange light, as if a new power is being created. Bruno arrives and tells them to leave the place quickly because the police are already on the stairs. Kamala and Cameron manage to escape. At that point, Cameron asks her what exactly happened to his mother. Kamala doesn't know what to say. Suddenly, one of the security forces enters through the window. Cameron releases a beam from his hand to take him down, but Kamala saves the officer at the last moment, telling Cameron that their role is to protect the city, not destroy it. Cameron escapes through the window and finds security cars in front of him. They ask him to surrender, but Cameron refuses and tries to destroy the police cars. The officers start shooting at him, and Kamala builds a shield to protect him from the bullets. However, the shield doesn't hold for long and is destroyed in seconds. Meanwhile, Agent Deaver orders her men to eliminate Cameron and Kamala, using a device banned internationally. But Cameron and Kamala manage to deflect the attacks from the device. Amid the intense strikes, a car is affected and flies into the air, almost falling onto the people standing in the street. Kamala stops it at the last moment, with Cameron's help. Agent Deaver pulls out her gun and decides to kill Cameron. He panics and creates numerous crystals with his power, causing destruction in the area. Kamala intervenes and creates a barrier with her power, enclosing herself and Cameron. She tells him it's better for him to escape to another place rather than harm innocent people. Cameron agrees with her, and Kamala strikes the ground with force, creating a tunnel. Cameron goes down the tunnel and quickly escapes through it. Afterward, Kamala removes the shield surrounding her. She hears Agent Deaver instructing her forces to arrest Kamala, but none of them comply with her orders because they saw Kamala saving the city with their own eyes. Everyone supports her, and the news reaches the head of intelligence. He calls Deaver and tells her to withdraw from the location immediately because she used a device banned only against children and civilians. He also mentions that Ms. Marvel, whom they were chasing, was actually the one who saved everything at the last moment. Later, Kamala becomes recognized as a superhero and is known among people as Ms. Marvel. People start talking about her in their videos, sharing her achievements. Kamala feels very happy with what she has accomplished. Kamala also roams freely in the city, meeting her friends Bruno and Nakia. They discuss their plans and how to develop Kamala's powers. One day, Kamala is sitting in her room when she notices her bracelet glowing with a strange light. As she looks at it, she suddenly gets pulled into her closet, and Captain Marvel, Kamala's idol, appears in her place. Captain Marvel looks around at her new surroundings, confused about what just happened. The scene ends with a note saying Captain Marvel has returned, and the series concludes. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you next time.